Just a few weeks ago, there was a lab called RemSpace that successfully demonstrated two-way communication between two dreamers while they were asleep. This seems to be a major breakthrough, but it might not be as new as they're making it seem in the headlines. Considering some of the things we've talked about in our past dream sessions, this is actually no surprise, and we should have seen it coming right around the corner. This RemSpace Lab, they've been developing a dream language over the past few years. The way they're developing this language is based on the facial muscles that respond the most when people are lucid dreaming. They can communicate with them and then have these people respond while they're in their dream, and they can detect these responses accurately. This is well established. We understand this. We've talked about this in a lot of the past sessions. It started out with people signaling with their eyes. We know that every other part of your body is shut down, basically, your motor functions at least, so you don't act out your dreams. When that's not shut down, that's when people end up sleepwalking. But for the most part, your frontal cortex, responsible for your motor functions, are shut down while you're sleeping, so that the rest of your brain can actively live out these dreams and your body isn't flailing around all over the place. Because your eyes are connected to broader parts of the brain, they don't get shut down. Often where you're looking in your dream is where your eyes are going to be looking in real life. When someone's sleeping and they're dreaming about watching a tennis match, scientists have observed that their eyes were moving left to right while they were sleeping. And it's easy to observe just from looking at someone. You can see underneath their eyelids the way that their eyes are moving. But these scientists hook up electrodes around the face so they can detect exactly which muscles are being stimulated and exactly where those eyes are looking precisely. They've noticed that a lot of the facial muscles, especially around the eyes, are still active while people are sleeping and dreaming. They can talk to the person that's dreaming, and then the person can respond with their eye movements. What they realized was that they would ask these dreamers to try to respond in the dream, say something back while you're dreaming. And what they noticed was that certain muscles on the face light up when these people are responding in their dreams. These tests are very well established science at this point, and I've talked about it before. They've given people simple math problems to solve while these people are asleep. They have the EEG meter, they have all these electrodes hooked up to these people, and their brain waves show they're sleeping, they're in a sleep state. But then a bunch of other regions of the brain are active. And while these people are asleep, these scientists can talk to them, ask them questions, and these people can respond with certain eye movements and literally communicate back with the scientists. They noticed that when the people were trying to say words back to them, they can detect which muscles in the face were lighting up. And different words cause different muscles to be stimulated. Based on that, they developed a language that these people could easily respond with based on the muscles that light up. There's a bunch of simple words, just a few syllables, 1 or 2 syllables for each word that these people can learn, and then they can respond with that word while they're dreaming. They call this language REMIO, REMMYO. And this language is very simple, and it's not a directly communicative language. It's an experimental language. But just like any other language, they teach it to these people while they're awake. And then they say, when you go lucid, we're going to feed you these words, and we want you to try to say these words back. And they can successfully detect which words these people are trying to say back. Through many, many different blind studies, they've tested this. They'll have a group of scientists give this dreamer a word. The dreamer will respond while they're dreaming. They can detect which muscles on the face are lighting up to detect which word that person's trying to say in the dream. And then another group of scientists can successfully determine what word that person's trying to say. The first group of scientists collaborate with the second group of scientists, and the second group of scientists shows that they can successfully determine what word the first group of scientists was feeding to that person. I hope I'm not making it overly complicated. Sometimes I tend to do that. The fact that they're able to successfully communicate one-way communication with these dreamers is what inspired the next step for two-way communication between dreamers. While people are sleeping, they give them earbuds and they can feed them these words. These people can respond back with the word. They can try to say that word in their dream. Based on the electrodes that are hooked up to this person's face, you can detect what word they're trying to say. Then they have the machine translate that based on the muscle stimulation in the person's face. This machine can determine what word they're saying in their dream. And then it will feed that word to another person that's in a dream. And then the second dreamer, the second person that's asleep and dreaming, has earbuds in and they can hear the word that the other dreamer just said. And then the second dreamer can successfully respond with that same word. And it started out with the second dreamer would just wake up, and after they woke up, they would tell the scientists what word they heard in their dream. And they recalled the correct word an overwhelming amount of times. With that, you can have the second dreamer try to respond back. They can try to say a word that will stimulate certain facial muscles. They can determine what that word was that that person's trying to say, and they can feed that back to the other dreamer, and the two dreamers can have communication between each other. It's not entirely internal. It's through external means. Still really fascinating and really interesting, though. I hope that makes sense for people. Our brain runs on electricity. I think it's really interesting. Most people know that the heart produces a strong electrical signal, but the brain produces electrical signals. Our neurons actually produce electricity. Literally, every neuron is in there making electricity in our brain. It's converting other sources into electricity. So we know that when certain parts of the brain are electrically stimulated, it causes different sensations and reactions to us in our mind and in our bodies. And we also know that external stimulus to our bodies causes different electrical signals in the brain. So it goes back and forth. They can stimulate different parts of the brain with electricity to cause different experiences in the person. The founder of RemSpace, the lab that successfully conducted this two-way communication between dreamers, the founder, Michael Raduga, he was the pioneer, the founder of RemSpace. This man literally hooked up a microchip to his brain with electrodes so that he could stimulate his brain electrically and induce different types of dreams and control his lucid dreams. He did this at home with a hand drill, literally drilled into his own skull and put a microchip in there. There's no reports in any types of articles that he used any type of medical anesthetics or anything like that. I know he only kept the microchip in his brain for about 5 months before they had to take it out, obviously for health reasons, but he really did it. And from his perspective, he thought that it was promising. But the point is that I don't think that was fully necessary. Maybe if he could link up with Elon Musk and Neuralink, they could come up with something more successful. But the point is that we do know that different electrical stimulation in the brain can change someone's dreaming experience. And someone's dreaming experience can change the electrical signals in the brain. There's a lot of implications for that, and I think we know that there's a lot of different ways people can use dreams for psychological therapy in a lot of different ways, whether it's to cure addiction or to cure them of their phobias or their anxiety or their depression or PTSD. All of these things can be worked out in dreams and can give us a lot of mental clarity and a lot of comfort and closure, depending on what you're trying to achieve with your dream at that moment. And that's what we're going to talk about more in the future. We're going to talk about more experiments that have successfully cured people of their phobias and of their addictions and of their PTSD and their anxiety and their stress, because it does happen. And just like meditation is a healthy mental practice, conscious dreaming can be a very, very healthy mental practice. And that's the whole point here. Just imagine how powerful it could be if two creative minds that are dreaming at the same time can communicate information back and forth. And then imagine how powerful it could be collectively if groups of people can join in communication while they're dreaming. What type of other worlds can we build and explore with that? I can only imagine. That's what I wanted to talk about mostly tonight. In the future, we'll talk more about dream imaging technology, how these different machines can translate our dreams into images for us, and maybe if we can combine that with the 2, 3, or 4-way communication between dreamers, we can really start to build these dream worlds together. And that would be my hope for the future. And I don't think it's too far-fetched. And I really believe that mental health is one of the most major, if not the most major issue, at least in this country, in America, from what I see around me. I think a lot of the other issues are secondary, but if we can find ways to improve mental health across the board, I really think that would help to lower the crime rate, lower the depression, the dependence on medication. So I think I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for stopping by. Definitely keep an eye out for some of these new videos I got dropping. I appreciate all of you so much. Peace and love.